think looking at the way businesses operate,
Right.
and I would give you what we consider as best in practice in business planning. We have new product introduction, where you look at what is the target market you want to make products for, and then you set a price for that market. You do your demand forecasts for the period in question, maybe a year or so. And of course, you look at your supply planning in terms of the materials that you will need to make those products. And the financial component. If, for example, you produce at the same level of productivity for the period under review or under consideration, you will make this margin or this profit
Right.
for your shareholders. Now, the current scenario, and I'm happy to hear that there is a lot of effort from the people at the policy level
Right.
to control the level of exchange rate. Then it will help organizations to be more prudent and be able to manage risks more effectively. I'll give you a typical example,
Yes.
which I have personally encountered. In 2021, the average exchange rate to the dollar was about 109 shillings. Then it went to 123. Then recently it went to a high of around 160 shillings.
Right.
We bought an equipment which was approximately $1 million. The exchange rate then was around 120 shillings. So the purchasing price for that equipment then becomes 120 million. And today, if we were to do the same project, it means we would have had to buy. Of course, there is some good news that the exchange rate now is in the range of 140.
Right.
It means we would have gone up, we would have had to get more money.
Right.
So it will be very helpful to us as manufacturers if we could have a predictable control in terms of the exchange rate, so that it helps when we are designing new products.
Right.
We are able then to factor in the dollar rate, because at the time of budgeting, you are working with an estimation, certain assumptions
Right.
about the exchange rate. And if that assumption does not materialize, then it throws off and it puts business executives and boards
Right.
into a tight position in terms of investment and trade as well.
Right. And of course, Dr. Habil, before I give you a chance to be able to tell us what exactly you feel about those sentiments, I'm pretty sure that it's going to take, or you have something to say about that. We will just be looking at some of the exchange rates that we have been having. Of course, in the last month or so, we have seen that they have changed significantly, and these changes usually have to be borne by manufacturers, people, in the tours and travel. For manufacturers, it's usually, doom and gloom when the dollar is winning against the shilling, but for people in tours and travel, that's when tourists want to come. So we have winners and losers in every particular situation now. Let's just look at the significant rate changes by date. By Sunday, 21st of January, it was, of course, exchanging at 159.13, which is 13 cents against the dollar. On Monday, 22nd of Jan, it was at 162 shillings and 50 cents. By Monday, 29th Jan, which was the end of the month, it was around 162 shillings. This was, of course, one of the highest rates that we have seen. Dr. Habil, as I give you a chance, of course, to give a rebuttal for that particular, comment by Engineer Chris, what exactly was going through your mind when these changes were happening?
Maybe just to give some comfort to Engineer Chris, I think he's right.
Yes.
The sense that you need to plan for you to succeed.
Right.
If you don't plan, you're planning to fail.
Right.
You see, and that's a very, it's sort of like altruism,
Yes.
so to speak. But I think we, first of all, need to understand something about the exchange rates.
Yes.
There is what we can call the fundamental value, which is driven by the fundamental, quantities.
Yes.
And then there is what you can call the sentimental value that is added onto the fundamental value to give the exchange rate that is given there.
Yes.
Now, the sentimental value sometimes is driven by factors that are not necessarily based on the fundamental things, Sometimes
Right.
the confidence you have in the economy can drive that value.
Right.
And the point I'm trying to put across is the fact that to an extent we saw a very steep depreciation of the Kenya shilling. And part of it was not being driven by the fundamentals. It was being driven by factors that were not based on the fundamentals, partly because the market was responding in anticipation of what was expected.
Yes.